name's Kirby, and I'm 7 years old. The other day, we were in the field beside our house, and this big boy kicked this football real hard and real high. And they wanted me to catch it, so I reached out my arms and it hit my chest hard, and I caught it. And Daddy was on the side, and he was jumping up and down saying, I got a football player. I got a football player. I'm going to be a great football player. And besides, I don't like school anyway. I was missing most of last year. I was sick in the hospital, and when I came back, everybody else knew their math and could read some, and they kept me back in the first grade, and my card had all kinds of red marks on it. So I'm going to be a football player. I don't care about school. I'm going to be a football player. I finally got to the ninth grade. I'm 15 years old, and I can go out for the JV football team. This was one of the greatest days of my life. But after I got on the JV team, they told me I really wasn't good, and I didn't hardly play that whole year. You know, I see myself as a football player, and I'm going to do everything that was necessary. That's what I said to myself. I'm going to do everything that was necessary to become a great football player. So I went out for the wrestling team because they said you could be strong. That year, also, after the wrestling season was over with, I went out for the track team because they said, track would help you to be faster. And in the cafeteria, I told all the girls that were sitting in my area that when they finished eating, if there was anything left over, come scrape it in my plate because I wanted to eat as much as I could so I could become as strong and as big as I could. During that first part of the summer, I worked for some bricklayers, and I would carry as many bricks as I could carry just so I could get strong. So in the 10th grade, when I went out again for the JV team, I started this time as fullback. I wasn't fast, and every time I would break into the open, they would catch me. But it took at least 3 or 4 guys to tackle me because I was so strong. In fact, every time I got to football, I could break through the line and make at least 5 yards. The quarterback never threw the ball. He just gave it to me, and we just rolled down the field 5 yards, 5 yards, 5 yards. So when I got to the 11th grade, I made the varsity. 125 students were tried out for the varsity, and I played enough that year to actually letter, and we won the state championship. So in the 12th grade, that was my year to perform. And I am so happy to say that in the 12th grade, I became All-Albemarle. All-Albemarle was an honor that the local newspaper gave to the top football players in the whole northeastern section of North Carolina. I became a football player. Well, how do you like my suit? I'm about to graduate from high school now. I'm 19 years old. And I don't let people call me Kirky anymore. It sounds too much like a child. They call me Kirk. But I can tell you something while I was in high school that I really learned. When I was successful in football and really wasn't good at it, but I had to work real hard, it sort of makes sense now that I can do anything that I want to do if I work hard enough at it. I figured out that I probably don't want to play college ball because, we had some great players. We won the state championship. I know I probably never played pro ball. So I decided I'm going to go to college and I'm going to be an honor roll student. I remember we were driving down the street. My father was driving, and I told him, I'm going to college and I'm going to be an honor roll student. He almost stopped the car in disbelief, but just sort of happy. But that was my new vision for life. I'm going to be an honor roll student. This is Kirk again, and I'm dressed up in my yearbook senior picture. Went to North Carolina Central University, the Fighting Eagles. And when I came to college, I can tell you it was an interesting journey because when I was in the first year, they gave all these assessment tests, and I was reading at the 7th grade level. Now in high school, I only kept a C average because I just didn't want to get kicked off the football team. But I really wasn't a strong student, and I realized I was almost functionally illiterate coming into college. But I worked hard. I studied hard. I had a good time and partied hard too, but I would disappear during the weekdays and go into hiding and just study. Sometimes I would put my earphones on my ear, play the same song over and over again so I would block out the noise in the dormitory. And I figured out how to really take a lot of notes. Everything the
the teacher would say, I would write down. And if the teacher coughed, I would write down cough just because that may have been important. So I learned my stride. I learned how to study for me. I learned how to take notes. And I guess I'm blessed because when I got to my senior year, I had a 3.5 GPA. I'm a biology major. And I decided to take every challenging course I could get. So I went past the requirement for biology and took upper level calculus courses. I almost got a double major in chemistry. I missed a double major in chemistry by one course because they said, I wanted to go to graduate school and they said you need to know as much chemistry as possible. And I applied for Ford Foundation, which was a scholarship to pay for your graduate education wherever you go. And I was probably one of the few people that got it with a low GPA of 3.5, but I think the reason I got it is because I took so many other academic courses. So I got the Ford Foundation. Any school that I wanted to go to in the United States that I could get accepted into that graduate program, the Ford Foundation was going to pay for it. I finished 14th in my graduating class. You know, if you work hard and study hard and focus, you really can do anything that you put your mind to it. I know I did it, and I know anybody else can do it too. Well, I'm 27, and I'm about to get my PhD in cell and molecular biology from graduate school. And I'm going to tell you, I learned some serious life lessons in graduate school. And it's not just that graduate school was challenging, but I learned how to be resilient. I learned how to not give up. In the graduate school that I went to, this is in the early 70s, racism was real alive. They recruited me in this department. There were 3 other black students. And right after I got there, the department head left and a new department chair came in. And he would invite those students, the white students, to his house for parties. And they would come back and tell me, some of them would, at least one would, tell me what happened. And this new head of the department said he's not going to let another black student graduate from his department. Took one course where there wasn't but 2 grades in the class, midterm and the final. Made a midterm, A on the midterm, A on the final, and got a B out of the class. They sabotaged my preliminary exams, the exams you have to pass, where the 2 great people graded it, and then the third pen came back and put a failing mark on it, where the 2 main graders that graded through the test put a passing mark. And then the department chair said that they couldn't change the grade because it was already done. And then again and again, event after event. Well, I had gotten so frustrated at one point, I had applied for a job for IBM. They invited me back to a second interview, and they told me if I came back for a second interview, they were going to hire me. But that morning, I decided not to go back to the interview. I decided to find another way, figure out how I can make it through at this university. So I allied myself with a couple of faculty members that wanted to help. And what I ended up doing was transferring to another department where I could still keep my minor in cell, my major focus is cell and molecular biology. I transferred to the zoology department. And I've gotten through my preliminary exams. I didn't find the racism there, and I'm about to get my PhD. And this is a good feeling, but it was a hard journey. But I learned how to be resilient. I learned how not to give up. Greetings. I guess you know me now as Kirby, or Kirk, but now Dr. Lycurgus Muldrow. I wanted to share my life story, my time capsule of how I stumbled into a growth mindset. Hopefully you won't have to stumble into this. You can learn from the experiences of others. So I challenge you, go forth, work hard, get a vision for your life, and know that you can do anything that you want to do if you work hard at it, if you're resilient, and if you're willing to put the time in. Thank you for listening to my story.